Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Swede Rolls. I'm Chris.
I'm Toby.
I'm Max.
I'm John.
And we're here to talk about, can role-playing make you a better person?
No.
Or worse.
There we go.
Yes.
Plot finished. No, role-playing cannot improve you in any possible way.
Just joking.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
No.
We've been kind of skirting around this issue for a lot of our podcasts. Like, we do... I think everyone here definitely believes that role-playing can improve your skills in communicating, problem-solving, things like that, right?
Absolutely.
Especially lateral thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
You might not encounter something like what you do in role-playing in real life, but it helps you prepare for things that you wouldn't prepare for normally in real life.
Like a post-apocalyptic setting.
Like a slime cube dropping down from above and engulfing you in acid.
Zombies.
No, but I agree. Yeah.
To dive right into it,
Yeah.
I actually believe that role-playing is very healthy. It can also be unhealthy, but if you do it right, it's very healthy for you as a
Even
person.
in the bedroom.
Yeah, but sitting with your friends,
I was just going to say that.
I mean, I remember one session
Yeah,
with Christian, but
yeah.
I'm going to take another. Like sitting with your friends and discussing, why is it acceptable to torture a goblin for information?
Yeah.
Why is it that acceptable
That
behavior?
was our session.
No. Our session was me, like chucking gold at the goblin, saying, "Okay, don't fight us, don't send alarm, and we'll let go." They picked it up, and I proceeded to kill them both.
Yeah,
And everyone was
we had
like-
a huge discussion. about
Everyone
it.
was like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" And I was
Oh,
like, "We
fuck.
just slaughtered our way into this place. Why is this morally different?"
The situation was essentially
Yeah.
you pretended to bribe them and then you killed them.
Yeah.
And you were a paladin, weren't you?
I was an Avenger.
Oh,
in the
right,
fourth
fourth edition Avenger. Yeah, you had like no chill for these
I mean,
assholes.
No.
the interesting part there is the discussion of morality. That
Yeah.
it's okay to kill them if they fight back, but it's not okay to kill them if they don't.
Even if you know they
Yeah.
were gonna try to
Yeah,
kill
exactly.
you.
There's still
Yeah.
the same evil things with that we've been killing.
It's
numerous
it's
times.
definitely a kind of a think tank for moral issues, I think, in role playing. Like you said, it prepares you for situations that might not ever happen, but it creates this kind of flexibility in your brain, in your brains.
What
to-
is usually referred to as lateral thinking.
Oh yeah. So yeah, like exactly like that kind of imagining being another person, imagining having completely different moral frames of reference, for example. It's very good for. Okay. No,
I mean, if you're a neo-Nazi, for example,
Yeah.
you probably have a very set worldview.
Yeah.
Me in real life, not being a neo-Nazi, might have a hard time understanding
Oh yeah.
people being neo-Nazis. But then if I try to say, I'm going to play a neo-Nazi here, and
All right,
then
we're going straight for that.
like I'm going to play a character who's a neo-Nazi, then I have to think, why does this person believe these things?
Yeah.
What made-
Where are these fascist ideas
Yeah.
coming from?
And that's how the story began when Joanne became a neo-Nazi.
I mean, I found out that there's
Trump has a lot of no.
boys, the wall.
Okay,
Well,
but
Maybe
joking
we should
aside,
cut that.
yeah. I mean,
Joking aside, it's
my point being that you can explore
yeah.
themes. and-
You don't have to accept different worldviews,
No.
but you have to sort of see where they're coming from. Like for example, if you let's continue with that example, right-wing movement in Sweden. You have the Sweden Democrats rising. You kind of have to think, what is so attractive about this party that people vote for them? And if you just go, oh, they have terrible ideals, so people are stupid for voting for them, you're dismissing a real issue.
Yeah.
Which is only going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
So we're getting political here.
I mean, when I'm trying to veer away,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
when I'm playing a character or GMing,
Yeah.
I try to do two things. I think when I analyze myself,
Yeah.
I either try to play something I want to be,
Yeah.
like a person that I admire personally.
A successful teacher.
Hey-o, high five.
No, but or I play something I want to explore.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
successful.
And I think everyone does that,
Yeah.
consciously or not.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we have in my group. I have this player. He's a male. He's mostly playing females.
Yeah.
He's probably doing that for some reason. We haven't really discussed it.
No.
But
I've actually taken up that topic.
yeah, you've
In-
in a previous podcast.
Yeah, playing women. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I roll a die every time I play. And I play if it's even, it's women. If it's uneven, it's men.
I have actually come to like the point where I play mostly males, and I thought about playing females. But the point I came to, why would I play females unless I'm gonna explore a stereotype? Otherwise, they should be played as a normal human being.
Yeah.
So I could just play a male.
But
I mean, is there a point to playing a female?
I think the point would be, for example, it provides the GM a way of, like, if you want to really go into social issues, stuff like that, which the whole group should really be okay with that. A woman meets different kind of obstacles in their life.
Yeah.
A woman warrior, for example, would probably have a tougher time than a man warrior.
A boob armor.
Boob armor, which is completely stupid.
Does it exist in the setting or not? It allows you to explore those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
but yeah, sorry.
For me, I have played female characters.
Yeah.
I most often play males. But when I'm building a character, when I'm coming up with a character concept,
Yeah.
I get this idea that this should be a female.
Yeah.
Then I will. But I think I veer towards male type characters a little bit. So,
Yeah.
because I am male.
Yeah.
So,
You resonate better because you're.
It functions with your frame of reference too. It depends on what you want to focus on with this character. If you want to explore a specific type of job, or if you want to explore a different type of mindset, then maybe that's more important than the sex of your character. But if you want to go, for example, I'm making a character for an online 5th edition game, and I just went, okay, I want to play a half-orc, and it's going to be a warrior, which is probably the least interesting concept to begin with.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna play a
Vanilla
gender.
Ice,
I'm gonna
white, please.
I'm gonna play a gender neutral character. I want to play someone who's literally doesn't give two shits about those norms and just goes with whatever's comfortable. And I'm not gonna make that a big thing, obviously. That's just, I feel like that's a little extra touch too.
These like exploration things can lead to really funny moments and interesting moments. I've had a mage campaign, Mage the Awakening, where one of the players was a male who was transgender female, and in the setting there was previously, before that player made that character, a female transgender male.
So male to female.
So we ended up with the situation with the player asking the NPC to dance. So we had a transgender female leading a transgender male in a dance. Like, it was just a fun moment where we all enjoyed like the situation, and in some points the comedy of it, and some points the kind of interesting point where how did we get to this point in the game. It's really fun.
And I think that you can't really expect a person to play with high fidelity to something that they're not. But just the actual idea of thinking outside of your own world and trying to imagine how it is like that, it helps. Because it helps in real life. It helps you go, okay, I am not experiencing these things, but I can imagine how it would be to experience these issues. And that helps me respect and try to find a compromise with you.
If I tie the knot around what I was starting with the neo-Nazi thing is, like, to hate something is to not empathize with it, in my mind.
Yeah.
And if I can imagine it, I can empathize with it.
Yeah.
So I don't hate the haters anymore.
No.
I mean,
You try to understand.
I've realized like being a neo-Nazi doesn't come from happiness and enjoying life.
No.
It comes from pain and feeling left out of society.
Yeah.
That's what I found out when I explored the subject more. So if you can imagine it, you can empathize with it.
Yeah.
If you can empathize with it, you can't really hate it.
No, and then you can also, you figured out how to help them.
Yeah.
How to help them become better people.
here's a little interesting subject. What about playing something that's very the opposite of that? Like playing a psychopath.
Yeah.
Where you have to remove empathy from your concept.
Oh, I've done that a couple of times.
Same
Yeah.
here.
This is something which often shows up, that people play a very sinister, sociopathic, psychopathic, depending on
that's what I
a
mean
person
with the
who
torture.
lacks empathy, who's very cruel, a very negative person. Do you think that would teach you something? Would that make you a better person to play that character, or would it just be an interesting point of view and maybe just be that.
Yeah.
It's hard because a lot of people, of course, have sociopathic and psychopathic tendencies and don't act out on things like that. But if you play an extremely evil character who doesn't have any moral problems with killing babies, for example, I still think that somehow helps you kind of understand your own values, because you sort of have to know what you're okay with to go against that, right? And if you're playing a character that has a good time killing babies, that's a terrible image, that will sort of make you go, okay, this kind of centers you. It makes it more obvious who you are and where you stand in relation to this. And maybe you'll find that you enjoy killing babies and you should seek out help.
And also, it's kind of hard to empathize with someone that kills babies.
Yes.
I've actually had interesting experience with
I would
that.
say it's almost impossible.
Usually goes one or two ways. I played a dark elf once.
Yeah.
And the thing about that character is thinking, this guy, he's not going to be evil. He's not just going to be a dick. Like, he's going to think slavery, that's fine. Everyone is weak, should be enslaved. Yeah. If you're enslaved and not fight back, you deserve to be a slave. Yeah. And I have money, so I'm going to like throw money at people and say, do things for me. Like, he was a dick. He wasn't necessarily evil. But we came to a point where my group said, please don't play this character. I thought that was very sad because I enjoyed playing the character and exploring that. Like, he wasn't backstabbing.
You found out all kinds of stuff about yourself.
No, but and I know,
but
not
no,
really. But he wasn't backstabbing. I mean, I was fantasizing. He wasn't backstabbing the group or so, but they were uncomfortable with the way I acted. Yeah. They thought like, you're being rude to us, and we're having a hard time drawing the line where you're rude to us in real life and in the game.
And at that point, you have to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, why am I here? Like we talked about last week. Like, why are we here?
There's a limit to how much you go, how far you go in game when it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, I said fine and made a new character. But I'm fine with that.
But my example would be a character I'm currently playing in the other group who is a half devil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He lacks emotions.
Evil,
all of them are limited to very sort of small spans. He's got very little emotion of any kind.
Very stunted in that,
but he's brilliant mind. So I have to envision that. And there you have cruelty is illogical. It doesn't make sense.
No, because there's no purpose other than pain.
Cruelty is illogical. Submission and control is not. So that character, for me, is very frustrating when I find something personally that upsets me. And then I have to play this character who does not care.
No.
That is putting on a mask, and behind the mask you're grimacing and being angry at something, but the mask doesn't show it.
And that's a real test of role-playing, to be able to deal with this kind of dichotomy, I guess you'd call it, between you and the role you're playing. And I think something I've encountered a lot online is when people criticize storytelling and having terrible characters, or enjoying a terrible character in a story, and they say, how can you enjoy this character? They do X things. And
glorifying the Joker in Batman.
Yeah. And in some degree, I agree that if you find this character someone you look up to, then there's definitely an issue here. But this is a controlled environment. It's not hurting a real person. You're allowed to experiment and see without any actual physical consequences. So why not take it to the logical step and see, and like we talked about, explore these kind of personalities, because they exist. These kind of people exist. And sort of let yourself look at them in an environment where they can't cause any damage and be like, okay, this is how I look at them. If you end up saying, oh, this is how I want to be, then that's probably not a good thing. But it also helps you develop your own personality. If you look at these and go like, okay, this is a terrible person. This is how I'm different from them.
That's sort of what I felt with the mask thing. Yeah. That I was putting on a mask that was only capable of showing certain emotions. But me, as behind the mask, was most certainly feeling other emotions. And that made me more aware of it. Yeah. That made me more aware of what I was feeling that I couldn't express.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing where you check yourself for what are your boundaries. Like, it's Google the Milgram Experiment, for example.
Oh, the prison?
Yeah, you'll see the psychological experiment where they see what do people do when they're paid and ordered to do a certain thing. Where's the limit in humanity? Yeah. That's the same thing. If you watch The Dark Knight and you think the Joker is a really good character and you really enjoy him, then you can just sit down with your group, make someone who is like the Joker, and you will find out why you enjoy this.
Yeah.
Is it the feeling of power that you get when you can dominate a thing that only exists in your imagination? Then maybe you find out that you shouldn't be in a position of middle management, because it's not healthy for you as a person.
No.
You like power in that regard, in an unhealthy way.
It's the same as people doing tests like, okay, if you had the power of invisibility or the power to freeze time, what would you do? And people respond, I would rob a bank. Like, okay, then clearly you might have some feelings of restriction on yourself from how society works. You always have to look at it from a bigger perspective, right? If I want to play a character who's absolutely fucking terrible, that doesn't necessarily mean that I want to be absolutely fucking terrible.
Yeah.
It's probably because I want to kind of a free zone to explore this side of humanity so I can better understand myself.
To be fair, if I were to get the power of invisibility, I would surely become a supervillain.
Well, I don't know.
I think that's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
If you actually think about it more, you'd start realizing the problems that incurs.
Yeah.
And I think this instant feeling of, if I had this, I would so do that.
Yeah.
Until you start thinking about the long-term consequences.
Yeah.
And in a game, you don't have to think of the long-term consequences.
No.
Your character can smoke because you think it looks cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Your
a
character
really good
doesn't
example.
have to develop cancer because the game might be too short. Or your character might have cancer because you choose to
explore the theme of death.
Yeah.
But
your
also,
character is coughing up a lung because he's been smoking a pack a day since he was 11. That might be an interesting character to play. He knows he's gonna die, or she knows she's gonna die. Therefore, they're more reckless.
Yeah.
Or less reckless because every minute is precious.
Yeah. But also, to be fair, I would probably not become a supervillain because I am I criticize myself and my actions so fucking hard that I would just probably procrastinate at home.
That's actually
without anyone being able to see me.
If I can move to the next step that I'm thinking about is GM experience. It's very interesting because when you GM, you have to be aware of your players, because you're in this for lack of better comparison, basically as a BDSM relationship. Like, you have to have a safe word, or you have to know the limits of your players, because you create a situation that might be so similar to real, actual IRL pain in a person that you will see them die in their eyes when you introduce, say, a person has lost their mother, and then you introduce a dying mother into the game, or a child whose mother has just died. Then you have to be aware of that in your playgroup, because that can trigger some real emotions, and that's not what you're there for. You're there to enjoy the game.
Absolutely. And it's also, I feel, another thing with being a GM is the old saying, kill your darlings.
Yeah.
Because you have to create a believable world, but you also have to make a world that the players can affect, right?
Yeah.
Even more so than the real world, because otherwise they're just, extras in your setting, which is a very tough thing to get used to, because you put all this time into this character and the players just make fun of it. Yeah. And it's so easy to just take that personal and be like, I made this guy to be cool, and they're just making him the butt of the joke. And I'm listening to a podcast called The Adventure Zone, which is about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And the game master really puts a lot of energy into creating these NPCs. And the players are, your typical Dungeons & Dragons players. They don't take it seriously.
Kill them, take their loot.
It's more or less. They make fun of them, and they mock them. And at first I was like, wow, this feels really familiar. Poor GM. And then I'm like, he's just rolling with it. He rolls with it because they're having fun, and that's important too. Always taking a step back and looking, okay, are we having fun at the moment? It could be stressful, of course, but going down a roller coaster is also stressful. A lot of people think that's fun.
And I think taking the piss out of a serious character might be more fun than taking the piss out of a purposefully comical character.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the contrast.
Yeah.
So there's also that.
I mean, that's actually interesting. That's one of the things I've recently actually come to terms with accepting is like I like to entertain my group. I don't like the group to entertain me as a GM. And in Pathfinder, for example, I have this like he started out as the nemesis sorcerer guy, and he basically became the comic relief. He was supposed to be the opposition, and then I asked the group like, "What's the most fun NPC you like in this setting?" And they said, "Oh, that guy, of course." And it's like, okay, because you're basically making fun of him, and also I as a GM have not like Mary Sued him. He's not invincible. He's not the big bad evil guy. So you win over him. He sometimes win over you, and like you have this comic interaction with him. That's just good fun for everyone, and that's like fine. You shouldn't make as a GM. It's very important not to make your magical realms like this is my thing. I will put this before you, and you get to play with my thing, but you don't get to move around my thing and change anything because this is my thing. And then because really boring to play as a character.
I've had trouble doing that before, but I'd say I've gotten better.
So how's the box going?
What box?
I mean,
this is my life.
I mean, to letting go of your creation, that is actually the final step of a good GMing.
Yeah.
Like just letting your players wreck the shit out of your storyline.
I've always felt that's really easy to do.
Yeah.
This is something that I've maybe done since childhood, that I build something and then I give it to someone else and see what they do with it. That has always been a fun thing for me. This goes back to when I was in daycare. Like, I used to build towers and things for other people to destroy.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I want to build something and then I will see how someone else wrecks it.
Yeah. I mean, that couple of like the last 5 years, that's what I've been doing. If I'm drawing, if I'm creating something, the cathartic about like destroying the thing you created, and that's turned into my role playing. Like, I really want this perfect situation, and if the players then go and totally destroy it, it's kind of enjoyable to see it happen. Because I put all this effort, like all this stress, all this like home after work and planning, and then just wrecking it. It's like one moment of
for that.
One moment of pain and suffering, and then just a moment of hilarity.
I feel you, John. I feel you. I've actually had a complete switch around, because when I was younger and GMing, I took it very personal when the setting got criticized. I still kind of do. If someone goes, "That's not logical," I'll take it very personally because I'm a bit of a.
You are very controlling in your role.
No, I'm a bit of a perfectionist.
I mean, it's like everything. It's how you can handle critique.
But on the other hand, now I'm getting frustrated because my players aren't testing the boundaries of what they're allowed to do.
Yeah.
When I'm GMing online, for example, the players just basically wait for railroading at some times. And it feels extremely frustrating because I'm used to now my real life group. Everyone just cooperatively building the story forward with no real goal. And then you go online, and I love you guys, by the way, talking to my players, but you're just waiting for me to tell you what's happening. I'm like, you can try to do things.
I mean, there's always going to be interesting moments if you GM stuff. Like, I had the Pathfinder group. They're entering the slums, and like there's a rogue there, the local gang guy. Comes up and like, "Hey, there's a toll to enter here." We're talking about like 2 gold coins, and these guys have thousands. And for some reason, the classic player response is, "No, we're not paying this minor fee. We're just gonna kill you."
Actually,
then it's like, "Oh, the quest is now not reachable anymore." What?
Well, that was an interesting interaction because it was typically for our characters who were like, technically we haven't entered the slums yet, so why would we pay a toll?
Basically, these characters have high intelligence and no wisdom, so it comes to the point where they're just offending the rogue to the point he's just, "I'm gonna stab you now because I see no other thing to do with you." It's
they
really fun.
The thing is, they're so logical.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Both of them have like the maximum intelligence you can have, and their wisdom is shite.
Dumb stat is
so they are in purely logical beings, basically.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well,
with no common sense.
Actually, to take another example from the Pathfinder campaign that is a little more on point about exploration. I recently had a first for me, a first in the last 10 years at least. Max, he's playing a arcanist who is able to create magical items, and the other guy, Johan, in the group, not me, the other Johan, is playing a drow, female gunslinger, and he's creating this belt of dexterity. And Max in-game, as a final, like, she provided the gold, and as a final payment, he would like to see her wear it. Only the belt. And that's the first time in a long time that players have interacted in that fashion in any of my campaigns. Sexualizing each other or anything. And Johan goes like, okay, fine. Because in character, she would be fine with it. And Max is going, sure, I'll just, like, in character be fine with this too. And it's really interesting to have that, because now
that shit happens in real life.
Now the group has a story.
Yeah.
A thing that is unique to that group.
She's from the matriarchal society of drow, exactly. So she would like, oh, who cares, right? Yeah.
It's also the fact that these characters have been traveling together
for
a long time.
This is not the first thing that happened.
No, if you get months and months together like that.
And there is actually a certain in-character explanation where that character is really, really interested in magic.
Yeah.
So seeing how this object, and only this object, interacts with a person is actually intellectually interesting as well. From an outside observer, though, this seems like a horribly sexualized thing.
Also a bit of a horn dog.
But the thing is, like, if you work sexuality into a game and everyone's consenting to it, everyone's adult, then we've talked about this on the podcast before. It's fine. If everyone's okay with it. If you get super graphical about it, maybe,
No, I mean, that's
if the group accepts it. Fine,
that's the same as the psychopath. You might want to explore it, but if at a point you describe some horrendous serial killer mutilation of a body,
something someone else is not comfortable with,
please don't.
Yeah,
that's just okay.
I've been close to those points.
Fade to black
in the group. Sometimes.
I mean, you've been playing crazy characters to the point that you're a GM assisting me in Vampire.
I am creating stories for you.
I like to say that if you're strictly playing crazy characters, then maybe...
No, but I have this extremely good example where Toby played a vampire in Vampire the Requiem.
Yeah.
Oh.
And, like, the campaign was not about the thing that Toby did.
No.
But it sure became about that. And that's the best vampire campaign I ever had, because it felt like a vampire story.
Yeah.
This guy is going off the rails, he's going crazy, he's doing things that he shouldn't do, and the players are now connected to this, and they have to not end up on the bad side of the prince.
I have a strange
really
story where I got called Slot Elf in the group.
What? All right.
After a specific adventure.
I see.
Okay.
And that was just a very, like, it was supposed to be a bargaining deal.
Oh, God.
Where they wanted a certain amount, and it was nymphs. Yeah, and they wanted one of the male characters to go with them for a while. And my character basically went, yeah, sure. That was supposed to be bargained away. And he just, no, I'll pay you full price, more or less. And this apparently was not what the other people were prepared for.
Well, I mean,
and it was just the fact that I thought of the character as being a fairly naturalist kind of person.
Yeah.
And after that entire group basically went, so all elves are sort of loose?
Wow, all elves, based on one elf.
Racism!
Yeah. Well, that's
that became a little meme, or sort of an in-joke for that character.
Harmless,
and it became a story. It became a thing of itself.
I mean, that's the Pathfinder example. Like, how much does Etherbuster self-respect cost? 4,000 gold coins. Yeah. It's the price of a belt.
I mean, I've played I think I mentioned this too before. I played a matron, a brothel matron, for example. But the sex part never really became a major thing in the campaign because we were focused on politics. So it would feel kind of out of place to have a session talking about but we had a lot of stuff going on at the brothel, for example, and there was obviously a lot of implied sex going on. But again, it's touch feel, Like, what are the players okay with? What are we going to spend our time with? Because if the GM just goes, let's have a 45-minute session one-on-one where you describe how you fuck this guy.
I mean, that's usually how it goes when you explore themes. You usually don't explore the really... like, you don't go full Requiem for a Dream.
No.
Or Train Spotting when it comes to drugs. Drugs are usually fun in campaigns.
Yeah.
It's never about, like... and the same with prostitutes.
Fun or extremely sad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the same with prostitution. And, like, I've had campaigns where we describe murder, we describe great scenes of horror, like churches built out of people instead of stone.
But when it comes to sex, all of a sudden...
we've never had a scene where we describe rape, for example.
No.
Because we don't want to touch that subject that deeply.
And regarding that, there's a subreddit called RPG Horror Stories. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's not a nice place to hang out because people basically vent about terrible experiences role-playing. And one person just described essentially how they've been playing Star Wars, the role-playing game, known for its rapey material, right? And essentially every single time they've played with this GM, they've been like prostitutes being raped, or they've been women being raped. And now this person was playing a male character that was raped by a stormtrooper. I was going to say Space Marine. And I just went, why are you playing with this person?
That's what I'm talking about, the GM. You can't put your players into your magical realm.
No.
If you think rape is something you enjoy, if you have those inclinations, don't bring it up.
No, don't push it on other people.
Usually when I do like a dark thing to a specific player character, I usually have the discussion beforehand. Is it okay if your character witness a brutal thing, or if I do this to you as a player?
It's a consensual thing because it's also involving a non-existing person, and I think that's important to keep in mind. Yeah. It's a non-existing person. No one's going to suffer for this. Are we okay with exploring this thing together?
Yeah, it's a very important thing, I feel, with the GM being sensitive to that. And that's something, as the topic is, what you learn. You learn to sort of...
boundaries.
You learn boundaries, and you learn how to read a group to an extent. And you have to be open about certain things as a group.
As one of the points here, stress relief. Role-playing is supposed to be a stress relief, something to enjoy. It's not supposed to be a stress inducer.
No.
You're not supposed to be horrified by something that happened to you in game because your GM just raped you. Like that's
not a good time.
I mean, it is in your imagination and it doesn't happen to you physically, but we can all agree that things that happens in someone's mind
that you don't have control over
really exist. That can affect you, even if it's not you.
That is one of the problems I have with lots of things. I'm just going to bring up a movie trailer here, for example, for The Human Centipede. I have never seen the movie, but in my mind, I made it so much more worse than anyone has described the movie to me. Because I have such a wild imagination that I almost became sick after seeing the trailer once.
You kind of envisioned
because I envisioned it even more horribly than it was.
The mind is a powerful thing.
And that's the problem for me. Sometimes I can just imagine away, and sometimes I can just be dead cold and be just logical about all the things. For example, with the rape thing, we've never touched upon that subject ever. I know I can, like, roleplay a person that would rape someone, but I don't think it's fitting.
I mean, we have had the thing, it's been around. Maybe they arrive at the village, there has been plundering and there's been rape. But I never had a player or an NPC in a scene doing that. Because it's not...
I think it's important to know that rape and sex are two extremely different things. Rape is all about power and control and dominance, and sex is a consensual thing, right?
But both of them are very intimate and maybe not suitable for something at the table.
Absolutely.
It might be better to be implicit about it rather than explicit.
Absolutely.
And that is true of a lot of things, and something you have to learn.
Exactly. We've never explored the true horror of killing someone either.
No.
Like, we've killed people. Players have killed many people, but we never actually explored, like, on a deeper level the
feeling of someone dying in your hands.
Because honestly, no one has in our group that I know of been raped or murdered someone or been murdered by someone because they're here.
Well, that would be
so
weird. But
we can't explore it that far.
No,
you don't know me.
And also, at some point, you got to take a step back and ask yourself: is this really something that's going to be fun to explore?
Yeah, that's always the discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, this is the Johan that I have had gay sex with in a campaign.
Oh, yeah, by the way, about exploring, this is one of the points I thought of the first. The belt was one of the recent moments. Yeah. The other moments where I was playing a king.
Yeah. Yep.
Marcus was GMing me and Toby.
I've heard this one.
And Toby was playing this knight. We were playing in basically a Greece-inspired place where homosexuality was not a bad thing.
It wasn't frowned upon.
No. And we're going to war. I, as a king, is currently setting up a marriage.
Max is just rubbing his forehead like...
In classic Toby fashion, you know, out of nowhere, comes to my room, asks, like, dead-faced, no hints at all, like,
Let
my
me
lord,
smash.
before we go to war, I really want to have sex with you. Oh. And I, like, out of the game, I was stunned for, like,
what?
And then it was like, sure, like, this is completely fine with my character, let's do it, but Toby really took me fucking off guard.
That's Toby for you in a
nutshell.
No,
I mean, it's really fun, and it's one of my better memories from roleplaying.
I think there's a lot of stuff you can learn from role-playing, both good and bad experiences.
But he was also psychotic in the end.
He developed a child cult.
The two things are not necessarily related.
One of these things are not like the other.
I feel like this entire discussion went a bit off topic.
But very much.
We can still draw it back to a lot of what you learn from this is like, how do you deal with stressful, painful things?
Yeah.
And how does a group deal with them? Because some people are okay with things when they're there in a group.
Yeah.
But when they come home afterwards, they might not be okay with it anymore. They might actually, like you said, make it worse in their mind.
Yeah.
And knowing when to stop is very important.
Yeah.
And that is something you actually learn, especially when being a GM, but also when being a player.
Yeah.
What can I actually put my GM and the other players in the group through?
There was a really interesting series on The Escapist a couple of years back. There was a group who did like episodes. Mm-hmm. And the series was about the GM. It was a play group, so it was like live action. It was scripted, basically, what I'm trying to say. It was a series. And the whole thing about the series was the GM had stressful events in his life. Mm-hmm. Like his sister was taking over the company instead of him and stuff like that. And it then correlated into him GMing these experiences and exercising his own personal things. Following the group along, and so you got the parallel stories of the group in game and him out game. And it's really interesting, but that's really what role-playing is a lot of times. People have things in their life that they bring to the table. Yeah. Especially GMs tend to bring more than players because they have to like put everyone in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then the players bring the final pieces, like bring a person into it instead of an entire one. And people are going to react to that. And one of the more interesting things I've ever experienced when I've GM'd is I do the dark fantasy. And this is where I saw my friends in a different light for a really long time afterwards. Because we've had so many experiences, we've done so many things that have been okay. And one of the things in this setting, because I wanted to explore this subject, was of basically burqas and stuff like that. So the setting was...
Burqas, the headdress of Muslim women.
So the thing was, gods existed, they were alive, they walked the earth. They were following this one god who believed in the purity. And to be pure, you had to be a vegetarian to start, so you couldn't eat meat. You had to wash yourself, and everyone had to have a garment, which was a unisex dress. So it was basically upside like a tunic, but it ended in a dress. And here's the funny part. My players had a really hard time before the campaign started. They didn't want they didn't accept everyone was gonna have to wear this thing in character.
I came around that part.
I mean, we ended up playing the game, but it's really interesting that for some reason triggered everyone almost to a degree.
Yeah, it made them.
Because this god has told you you have to wear this, otherwise you can't play. Like, this is a thing. It was really interesting.
I didn't really have a problem with that, but I also made a character that did not come from that country.
It wasn't a big issue, but it still was something that immediately wait, we can't what?
And also that character commented on the dressing and why there's no meat on the tables and other such things, and the other characters didn't really respond.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thing to explore, I feel, in role-playing games. Cultural clashes.
Exactly, because it was just a cultural clash. They couldn't just accept that they don't get to look and appear exactly as they want.
But I mean,
that's a very Western way to
you can go extremely here and talk about how there's so few communal kind of characters in role-playing games. A lot of role-playing characters are very individual.
Yes.
Very Western kind of
Western
self-made, whereas, for example, this is extremely political, but if you talk about, for example, the Asian
North Korea.
I'm thinking the old Confucianism, which is very centered upon the role of a person in society, and the kind of hierarchical system, which is, to be honest, how West used to be, very similar to. You had your different grades, like. You almost always see bad guys being the ones who live in unison, work in unison, right? Who have this harmony together, because it kind of crushes individuality. This is
the One Ring, Sauron. Orcs are just mindless.
Yeah,
dogs.
Exactly. Whereas in the heroes, they're in there for their own free will. Yes. They all have their own goals and aspirations.
Different cultures and genders.
And that's something you can explore too. Like you said, how would you act in a society where you're raised to be in this specific way?
Because that was the issue. It was individualists as players came to the table, and I told them you have to be collectivists. You have to think as a hive, basically.
And that's such an alien concept for a lot of people.
Because they didn't accept that to the get-go. And then I just, we remove this. This is a tradition, but you don't have to follow it.
Because it became a really, really long discussion.
I mean, it's the rule of fun.
Yeah,
role-playing
fun versus.
The rule of fun is basically this: if it doesn't create fun, don't do it. Or if it stands in the way of fun, don't do it.
Yeah.
So basically, I could make a setting where if you're a female, you don't have the right of property. You don't own yourself.
Yeah.
But really, is that fun for the person who wants to play a female adventure?
Exactly.
No. So maybe we have a thing where someone says, I want to talk to the man over there instead of you. But you don't stop someone from owning a sword and being an adventurer.
It's very important, I suppose, not to step on people in that way.
Exactly.
And that has to be a bit touch and go, especially for things you can learn.
Yeah.
You have to learn what is acceptable. And again, I feel this has to do with communication. You have to be a lot more open.
Be able to read the room, basically.
Or be very explicit about things. Ask people. And learning to both be explicit about things that might be a bit personal or sensitive in the right way could be a very important lesson for you. Yeah. As either a GM or a player saying, I want to explore this more, is that okay?
Yeah.
You have to be able to ask that maybe beforehand. That could be an important thing to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all settled on that this role-playing, and we've been talking a lot more about the social aspects rather than the mathematical stuff like that, probability, which is something you can learn too.
But that's more optional, I feel.
That's optional, yeah.
And also, if you look back at this podcast and actually try to listen to what we're talking about, we are putting up these points that are on this piece of paper, but we're not specifically talking about the subject.
No. We're not. And that was never the point of all these. I make lists before the...
Actually, that you brought it up, that's also interesting, because you learn social skills, of course, because it is a social situation. Yeah. But all these rules and stuff, you also learn organizational skills, mathematical skills, organizing your group, remembering rules, English. English. You learn English if you're not native speaker. And understanding all these systems. I've never been interested in math, but I learned from die rolling. Which basically, the probability of certain die rolls, 3d6s, is 10 or 11.
Yeah.
It's average.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bonding experience. Yeah. It's very hard to make friends as close as the ones you've shared a role-playing campaign with, a few role-playing campaigns with.
But I had a question that is pretty obvious, but it would be really fun if everyone around the table talked about what they think has been the biggest boon from role-playing in their life. Like, what has been the biggest...
You start.
Oh, okay.
Biggest profit.
What's been the biggest profit? It's probably... I've always been quite the quiet person sitting in the background. As we talked about in some other podcast or this one, I don't really remember now. I am a very passive person. I am the one who observes and watch how things unfold. And in my situation, I like to observe what other people do and react on the point. If something happens, then I can react to it instead of going forward, sword in hand, and going on an adventure just because. I'm not
reactive more than proactive.
I am a very reactive person.
Yeah.
And I've probably learned to socialize and start conversations a lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
And then I moved away for 3 years and I didn't know a single person.
Wow.
So I had to relearn everything.
Roll for diplomacy a lot.
Exactly. For me, I think that the role-playing really helped me socialize with these new people that I had never met before. And when I came home, I've realized that I have over 40 new friends over here, and I haven't talked to a single one of them since.
But that's also part of socializing. You're not going to be friends
ending
with
the campaign.
Yeah.
No, but I really like all of these people.
Yeah,
but I just haven't been in touch with them.
No, you don't have to.
No, of course you don't. That's your choice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know what's the main thing I've learned from role-playing. I can't really imagine my life without it, because it's been a constant part of it, at least at a low key, maybe low interval at times, but it's always been there. And I'm not a rules lawyery person. The rules are there to play the game, not the other way around. But to an extent, I think I've become a more empathic person due to role-playing. I am more able to connect to people.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And maybe that is a strange thing to say, that I'm not a very empathic person normally, that had to be an acquired skill. But
no, I think it's absolutely...
But after the whole 4chan thing, things went downhill.
And it's not that I don't have...
say the name.
It's more like I might have had the same amount of sympathy for people, constant, but empathy might have increased. That my ability to read a room or read a person has been trained from it, and I think that maybe has had the biggest impact for me. That learning a certain amount of understanding other people in a social situation and training that in a fairly active way, that is role-playing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've learned some small bits and pieces here and there as well about acting and such things. History. Definitely a lot of history if you're that. But I think that's the main thing for me. But I can't be 100% certain it was role-playing that did it either. It could just be maturing in general.
I mean, that's the thing. Would you be the same person if you weren't role-playing?
Well, no, because it's been such a large part and so on. But, I mean, I suppose one of the big things is certain friends I've developed I wouldn't have.
No.
Yeah.
That might also be a really important part.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
know where we would be if we didn't have role-playing.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah.
We've been role-playing since high school.
I mean, in a certain way, in a kind of way, that role-playing has been our medium of friendship for a long time.
Yes.
So,
But now it's magic.
well,
friendship is magic, you know.
Friendship is...
And magic is heresy.
Fucking heretics. Yeah,
I mean,
it's 40K for you.
what I think I picked up from role-playing, I mean, I work as a teacher now, so I think I always loved stories and storytelling.
Yeah.
That's always been a thing I loved, and I always have a vivid imagination. But I never actually thought that I was going to get the opportunity to sit with a group and tell a story that they engaged with.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. But what I learned, I think this is recently also, that I've learned to fake it until I make it as a GM.
That's a very, very
Like,
valuable skill.
Improvising stuff, like not being prepared for anything and accepting that and improvising. But also, I have to stand in front of this class of teenagers. I don't have exactly I don't know exactly what I'm going to do in this lesson. But if I play the character of Johan, the teacher who knows these things, I'm going to be able to fake it so they won't notice that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will believe that I know what I'm...
The confident,
exactly what we're doing.
Mature
Exactly.
teacher that's in control.
Exactly. And I've actually been able to apply that to every situation now, where people are starting to comment that I have like a gift for speaking. But
which you would have never heard 10, 15 years
I
ago.
mean, I almost puked the first time I stood in front of a group.
Yeah.
5, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the things that I just learned to fake a character that I am not. I mean, not in a
It's not supposed to
personality disorder.
No.
Nor in a lying kind of way.
No, just saying
projecting
I'm gonna
an
appear
image.
confident here, and they are gonna see that.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna play it like I know everything.
Yeah.
And then the thing where, my players are starting to do this. Holy shit, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Now there's just,
Let's take a 5-minute
this grown-up
toilet break.
person is asking me about something that I know.
Yeah.
I'll give the response that I will get back to you later.
Yeah.
Not panicking about. So, and also in communication, I think.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate clearly to other people about concepts and ideas that I have, like, and organizing people.
I've met so many people in my life thanks to role playing, and I'd say that when I started out role playing when I was in 3rd grade, that was on an extremely simple level. What was a friend who was 3 years older? We grew apart. But when I started buying my own role-playing games, I would play with myself. I'd have 5 characters that I played because I didn't have anyone to play with. And then I just met friends, and it slowly met more friends and more friends. And I met people online. I actually role-played online. I have friends all over the world because of role-playing. But what I think, unfortunately, I'm not going to say that as the biggest thing for role-playing. It's a huge thing. But just like Johan said, I'm a teacher as well. And when I was 10, 12... I would have never thought I would be a teacher, not even when I was 18.
The same. I actually said to a friend there, I'm never going to be a teacher.
Exactly.
That sucks ass.
Yeah, who'd want to be a teacher? Everyone hates you and it's a shit job.
To be fair, we didn't really have the greatest role models.
We had some good ones and some really bad ones.
Arguably, I got interested in philosophy and knowledge due to role-playing games. Like Max said, history.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in history, but never about the social details of history or something.
And it's for me, English became a second language because of games and role-playing games. And I still make mistakes, but I'm a teacher of English and Japanese apparently. But just going up in front of 20 to 30 people and just standing there going, when you go through the door, we have a term for it at my first job called tröskelpedagogik. Which is basically when you cross into the classroom, that's when you decide what you're doing today. And it can sometimes get fucked up. You misjudge how long it's going to take. But just kind of improvisational dealing with situations when they come up, not pushing them away, being able to handle shit happening is something I'd attribute to role-playing games. And also this kind of... I know, Toby, you're going to say that I'm very controlling.
Yes.
But I have gotten much less controlling than I used to be.
You really have. Because I know this, not because we've roleplayed together, but from Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
because if you did not control the situation, you would lose your cool in an instant. And nowadays, it's very much more relaxed. Yeah. Like, you don't give a fuck.
I mean, that's actually interesting, because I remember also you have talked about this yourself, the stress of GMing. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what GMing is about. Yeah. Slowly
extremely
accepting the situation.
It's still, I'm going to be completely honest here. Every time I have a game scheduled, both real life and on the internet, I just wish that someone's going to call in sick so we're not playing, because I get this welling anxiety of performance, because I'm extremely worried that I'm going to make people disappointed. It's why I am controlling. Because I have these high expectations on how the game should be, and if I don't have that in control, I'm super worried that people are not going to have fun.
I find that I've started more and more to ask for criticism.
Yeah.
Yes.
As I got into it.
You really want feedback.
Like, not, what did I do good? What did I do poorly? I want that. And that is something that maybe I wouldn't be as into if it wasn't for this role-playing thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the latest thing about Pathfinder is me panicking because I don't think I have control of the situation. Then basically asking the players, are you enjoying this? And them saying, sure, yeah. This is fun. So, okay, then I'll have to stop panicking, because apparently
you have to trust them, that they're not lying to your face. And that's learning to trust people that they're not lying to your face is a hard thing to learn, because I don't know.
I'm lucky. I have a guy in my role-playing group who can't lie to my face.
Okay, that's fortunate.
Oh, there.
Because I grew up, I was a pathological liar as a kid. Yeah. I would lie about everything for no real reason. So I have a hard time believing people when they're telling me something.
That sounds like a control thing again.
I'm also going to say that you probably, in the absence of Martin, been cursed by having really good GMs, right?
Yeah, I've had good ones,
And then it's always hard to start GMing.
You have to live up to that.
I started, basically, when we started role-playing, the 4th campaign, I think I just threw it out as an idea that I would GM. Yeah. And I got a lot of positive feedback because I had a different style. And then that just stuck around. So I've never had, like, 25 started GMing with having a history of really good GMs. Oh, wow. So that's really...
It's tough to live up to.
I think it's really tough if you had a previous experience as a player having really talented people GMing.
That's why you fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's having a very organized GM can be similar, that you think, oh God, I have to be as organized as this person. They've got all these folders and like their computer, and they've got everything set up. And I mean... I can just sit there and go, right, so let's do this. I've got nothing prepared, but I'm rolling with it.
Yeah. I mean, Critical Role, if you watch it, it's a role-playing game. Group, I guess. Just search for it and you'll find. They have a session there where Matthew Mercer, the GM, talks about him GMing. He talks exactly about this appearance of control, but not actual control. Like, oh, the players decide to go that way. Well, I'll just flip around my paper for a while. Looking like I'm trying to find my old notes of this place, but actually just panicking and seeing the name list so I can name an NPC, and then improvising. Like that's a skill you learn.
We're gonna that's a really useful skill, and we're gonna unfortunately have to end it on that note. We are almost an hour into this recording, and this has been a very, very rewarding and giving conversation we've been having.
Yes.
I really look forward to having you guys on the show again.
We started talking about the topics about half an hour in.
Yeah. No, I think
we started on the topics, then we diverged.
Yeah. But I think that's just how it goes, because role-playing is a very broad subject to discuss.
Yes.
And go out and role-play. That's all we can say. You will have fun. You will sometimes not have fun.
I mean, you can become a better person, but you could also be the person at the table who makes everyone else uncomfortable. That's a really important thing to be aware of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a cooperative thing. Yeah. It's not your power fantasy, unless you're the GM.
Or then it's definitely not your power fantasy.
Exactly.
Then it's giving other people your toys to play with.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't see it any other way.
Just look at the fact that they're...
But Mom, they're smashing them.
Imagine that they're paying rental money for it or something if it makes you feel better. Until next time, keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Thank you for listening to Swede Rolls. Your support means the world to us. The music you heard playing at the start and the end of this episode is Fireside Tales by Darren Curtis. The intent of this podcast is to discuss themes and issues in all manner of gaming, but primarily focused on the RPG genre. If you have any comments or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Pay us a visit at swederolls.com, where you can also learn about the people doing this podcast and more. For our Let's Play channel, check us out at youtube.com/Swede_fighters. And until next time, keep rolling.